Hello, friend, and welcome to the 10-Minute Mind Shift Podcast. I'm your host, Janet Cagle, certified life coach, business strategist, and lover of all things related to up-leveling my life and yours. My goal is to help you experience a mind shift that gets you one step closer to your goals, whatever they are. My goal is not to keep you wrapped up in self-help all day, just 10 minutes. And who doesn't have 10 minutes, right? Hello, my friend, and welcome back to the podcast. What is going on? How are you feeling these days? If you are listening in September 2020, we are and have been in the COVID-19 world pandemic since early 2020. Many of us have been quarantined to some degree or another since March. We are going to get through this, my friends. We are going to get through this. And that's not just me thinking positively or believing without evidence. There is plenty of evidence to support my thought that we are going to get through this. This is episode 22, and today I want to talk about resetting your emotional set point. What is your go-to emotion? You know, the emotion that bubbles up when husband is late again, the kids are fighting again, your coworker interrupts you again, your friend is late again. There is a real thing called emotional set point, which is the medium or average of all of your daily emotions, but it's also the way that you generally experience life, just the regular routine day-to-day life. We all have dominant emotions, responses to things in our lives that dominate how we show up in response to things over and over again. So the question to ask yourself is, does it work for you? Is that how you want to show up in this scenario? Is this serving the result that you want to create? And here is why that is important. When we got married, we had an idea and an expectation of how that would be and what that experience would be like. We had the same notion when we thought about having children. We spend more of our waking hours at work than any other place in our life, so how we experience that is very important to us. If I knew the answer to how you could actually get all the people to change, I would bottle it all up and sell it and be on the beach somewhere warm. I mean, I've even tried the method of changing the people who were in my life. I just got all new people, and guess what? They were just as irritating, frustrating, confusing, and annoying too. We don't have to change all the people who are in our lives, and they don't have to change how they show up in order for us to have a different experience with our life. We don't have to feel any of those emotions in response to what others say or do. My go-to emotion was always just on edge, ready to be defensive, ready to be frustrated, sitting on the verge of my next annoyance. I mean, I had an occasional moment of joy and excitement and other positive emotions available to me from time to time, but my emotional set point was on edge. I really thought that meds would help because just sitting around thinking pretty thoughts didn't help me when I was triggered by the circumstance. When I found my coach a few years ago, that's when I learned that I was the one creating my own frustration, my own annoyance and irritation. People were just being people. Me thinking that they should be different than they were was just driving me nutso. The reason that this is important is that trying to create a result from frustration usually creates more frustration. Trying to create a result from irritation or annoyance fuels more irritation and annoyance. If we want high-octane results, we must be fueled by high-octane emotions. So ask yourself, what are your actions being fueled by? Is your go-to emotion fueling creative action, productive action, thoughtful action, and massive action? Or does your go-to emotion have you yelling at the kids, ignoring the husband, and feeling resentment for coworker and friends? We can reset our emotional set point and have ourselves showing up as our highest and best self starting today. Our emotions are the fuel for everything that we do or don't do. I know you know that by now, but I don't think that you can hear that too much. When our emotional set point is set to high-octane fuel, we take high-octane action. When our emotional set point is set to low octane fuel, we will take low octane action. We may even take the same action, but they will have different energy fueling it, so the result will be different. We think that we are feeling our feeling because of what someone says or does, and that's just not true. We are feeling what we are feeling because of the thought that we are having about what someone says or does. And that is the best news ever. Why? Because we are the ones in charge of what we think every single time. Now, here's the deal. The reason that we react to any given scenario time and time again is just because we've had the same thought in response to the circumstance, and we've created a groove in our brain, a neuro pathway. Over time, that pathway gets deeply grooved and easy to access. But here's the good news. We are not hardwired. We can rewire our brain at any time. We can create new neural pathways in our brain, and over time, that new neural pathway will be the go-to thought and the go-to emotion. Here's an example. When Steve is having a moment and maybe he's in a bad mood, that used to trigger me to be short and curt and snarky in response to his bad mood. I used to think things like, what's he so ticked off about? I might even try to take ownership of his mood and try to think of what I might have done to make him so cranky. You know, make it all about me. In this scenario, I would be mirroring his behavior. So if he said something in a smart aleck tone, I would respond in a smart aleck tone. Of course, that never makes for a good day for either of us and leads to bickering and arguing, what I call bickerments. Not quite an argument, but more than bickering. So, what to do instead? Decide ahead of time how you want to feel and what you want to think instead of how you have been thinking and feeling. So when the kids start yelling and screaming and running through the house, that's not an invitation to scream back at them, although it's very accessible to us right now. So how do you want to respond? How do you want to show up? When someone interrupts you in a meeting, talks over you, or shows up late, whatever they do that typically triggers you, what is the way that you can respond or show up that is your highest and best self? What's going to be better fuel for the action that you take? Action that you can be proud of, action that is more creative, productive, supportive, thoughtful, inspiring, or massive. Decide ahead of time how you want to feel and what you want to think. Practice it ahead of time. When faced with a typical triggering scenario, execute. So, in this example, I wanted to show up supportive, not make it about me, let him process whatever he's going through and deal with it, and not layer on another component to that process. The thought that I have that helps me be supportive instead of combative is, he's just having a moment. I'm going to let him process this and support his process. That puts me in an entirely different state of energy. And when I take responsibility for how I show up, that leaves space for him to take responsibility for how he shows up. I don't make it anything about me or him. It's just two humans being two humans. So, if you're ready to take this work to the next level, ping me. All right, my friends, I hope that you have the best week ever. That's a wrap of the 10-Minute Mind Shift podcast. I hope that you were able to experience your own mind shift today. Listen, if you're ready to take this work to the next level, I highly recommend Life by Design Academy. It's my one-on-one coaching program that offers you a transformation at the speed of life.